In this family mini lesson, I am going to show you 3-digit addition using the place value grid method, and this is with regrouping. So we're going to set up our grid with the hundreds, tens, and ones column. Now here's a tip. You're going to want to carry the 1. I'm old school, I know this, but listen to me, don't. Instead, let me teach you the ways of my 3rd grade math people. We do this in steps. Step 1, place the equation into the place value grid. Make sure it's stacked vertically. Now, this next part is where you're going to want to carry the 1. You're going to solve first for the ones place, and you're going to put that total amount under the original equation. So instead of carrying the 1 on top, you're going to put it in the tens place below, and then the ones of the 13 in the ones place. So 13 is your total value of ones, and it goes in the same line. You're going to do the same for the tens total. 3 plus 4, or 30 plus 40, equals 70. And we're going to put the value of 70 in the next line down. So that is where you get the 7 tens, and 0 extra ones. We'll do it again for the hundreds place. Do 600 plus 0 plus 0. Looks like I forgot to add that extra 0. But nonetheless, it'll equal 600. So you're going to put the 600 in the proper place. The 6 goes in the hundreds place, followed by 0 tens and 0 ones. Now you're going to solve for your 3 rows. Your ones total, your tens total, and your hundreds total, you are going to add together by place value column. So 3 plus 0 equals 3. That's your ones. 10 ones plus 7 ones equals 8 ones. And 600, you're just going to drop below. So 683 is your total. Now, why do all this work? Well, it connects back to what we were learning in the first module, which is expanded form. We want our 3rd graders and our students to see a number and know the value of every number in its place within that standard form. So 683 is really 600 plus 80 plus 3 and vice versa. So there's the connection. If they know this, they have the keys to figuring out so many more things in math. Thanks for joining in.
In the last problem, I showed you how to use the place value grid method to add numbers where the ones needed to be regrouped. In this example, I'm going to show you how to do the same thing, but now the tens will need to be regrouped. So these are different examples of a difficult problem that your student might encounter that might trip them up a little bit if they're not careful. So let me write this problem down. And I'm sorry for the tapping sounds. That's my Apple Pen hitting my iPad. So we have 486 plus 232. So in this situation, we're going to start again with our ones. So I'm going to add the 6 and 2, and I'm going to put that 8 down here and on our ones total line. Now, one thing to keep in mind, when we're talking about the total ones, the total of tens, the total of hundreds, we're talking about the total value, not just how many groups we have. And I think that has been it's caused some confusion when I've been teaching in the class. We're talking about the total value altogether and not just the groups. So now that we have our 8 ones as a total value of our ones, we don't need these other spots right here. So if your students have a hard time leaving those boxes alone and not putting numbers in there, then I suggest just making X's there so that so they will not go back to that that line. Now we're going to look at our tens total. So now I see that we have 8 tens and we have 3 tens. So we want to make sure that when we're adding our tens, we're actually saying 8 tens and 3 tens. A lot of times what happens is we say 8 plus 3, and we know that's 11. So then what happens is I see students put 11 down here because they know 11 has 1 10 and 1 extra 1. But again, we are in the tens place. We're adding numbers in the tens place. So 11 is not our total number of tens. Our total number of tens would be 110. And you can still see that 11, but we've shifted it over to the hundreds place in the tens. That's because when we have 8 tens and we add 3 more tens, we cross over and we have to regroup our tens to one group of 100 and then any extra tens that we would have. So that is where the 110 comes in. And it's okay because we're talking about the total value. It is okay that our tens total goes into the hundreds place because we're not talking about the number of tens, we're talking about the total value of tens. Now let's go to our hundreds place. So we have 4 hundreds plus 2 hundreds. That would be 600. And so we're going to write that in the appropriate boxes. We want to make sure we add those zeros. So now that we are done adding our ones places, our tens places, and our hundreds places, we want to make sure that we don't go back and use those numbers. Some students are a little bit confused with this. They don't realize that this right here is a different representation of this. So if they add all these numbers down the line, they're going to have double the amount. So we want to make sure that they don't use these again, that we're just thinking about the numbers right here. So we go back to the ones and we add our ones. 8 plus 0 would be 8. Okay, then we have 1 plus 0 would be 1, and 1 plus 6, or 6 plus 1, would be 7. So our total is 718. And that is how you use a place value grid when regrouping tens that need, or when grouping tens that need to be regrouped. Hopefully that was helpful.